come. This other one will be held in English, so there will be no translation. Is that okay? Okay. This I went from the European Games to the Formula 1 Grand Prix, ignoring the human dimension. That is the team for this side event. And I'm glad to welcome you. Rasul Jafarov, former political prisoner, human rights defender from Azerbaijan. Welcome. Also welcome to Emin Huseynov, founding chairman and CEO of the Institute for Reporters' Freedom and Safety. Welcome. And finally, welcome to Gulnara, Akhundova, head of the Eastern Europe, Caucasus and Central Asia programs, international media supports. I will first give these three guests here the floor, and after that I will open for questions. Okay? So I think I will give the floor to you, Gulnara. Yes.
Thank you very much for introduction, and thank you for hosting this important side event, and hello to everyone. We really appreciate that you could find time in your busy schedule to come to listen to the concerns expressed by Azerbaijani human rights defenders. And we have Rasul, who came from Azerbaijan. He was recently released from prison. He continues his work against the odds, and he will provide first-hand information on what's going on in terms of politically motivated imprisonment in Azerbaijan. We have another prominent human rights defender, Emin Huseynov, who has been illegally stripped from his Azerbaijan nationality, and he had to seek political refuge in Switzerland. He's now based in Iran, but also continues his human rights activity and defend of fundamental freedom of expression in Azerbaijan. And so I believe that these distinguished speakers should be given enough time to speak and express their concerns. What I want to say today is that at the OSCE we do have several mechanisms to hold states accountable for human rights violations. And we believe, I'm sure that my colleagues will also share my observation that Azerbaijan is possibly at the stage where these mechanisms should be explored. And now I'm talking about Moscow mechanism, which is a further elaboration of Vienna mechanism. And Moscow mechanism has been applied 7 times in the history of the OSCE ordeal. And Moscow mechanism allows the member states to request investigation of certain situation in the member state, in another member state, or in its own member state. For example, several years back, Estonia requested OSCE ordeal to send experts in their own country to investigate whether Estonian legislation is in line with international human rights law and international human rights norms. So the country was very much concerned about its own legislation and wanted to make sure that everything is done to comply with international human rights norms. Or in another example, 14 member states requested investigation into situation with human rights in Belarus following 2010 presidential election in that country. So there are several examples where Moscow mechanism have been explored. And I have Emin and Rasul sitting next to me, and this is actually sort of deja vu because we had this situation 3 years back in Baku during General Assembly in Baku, when both of them spoke, and also members of Azerbaijan delegation were in the room, and the dialogue was mentioned. Azerbaijan delegation said that we are happy to hold a dialogue and human rights situation is not that bad. But following that, Rasul was arrested on fabricated charges of tax evasion, power abuse, and service forgery. Emin was persecuted by the regime to the point that he had to seek refuge at Swiss embassy in Azerbaijan, where he spent 10 months before he was escorted to Switzerland by Swiss Foreign Minister Bekkevold. So, dialogue has not happened, and when you look back into 2014, some might say, well, the situation has changed, we have seen the release of political prisoners. But we don't believe that the release of people who are innocent and whose only crime was exercising their fundamental rights to freedom of expression, assembly, and association, it's not a solution to release innocent people on presidential pardon or on suspended sentence. The situation in Azerbaijan is very bad. The legislation is very restricted, and it doesn't allow NGO and media to operate. But I will stop here because we have distinguished speakers who will be able to talk about that, and I guess we will talk about the civil society situation.
Hi, my name is Emin Huseynov. I'm Azerbaijan human rights defender, but temporary I'm based in Switzerland. It's my home country, not give possibilities for me. Continues my important work from all Azerbaijan society. But still, we are operated from exile, and we are systematically reported about human rights violation in my country. I just want to introduce our last report, which is prepared by part of our coalition. This report, 54 pages about recent changes in Azerbaijan legislation. And if some of you are interested, we are ready to share this print version with you. I just want to say for the last 2 years, we have 63 legislative change in non-profit law environment. And after these changes, technically and practically, it's impossible to continue to operate from independent civil society in Azerbaijan. When I'm talking about civil society, it's not only non-governmental organizations and NGOs, it's also independent media and alternative critical voices like political opposition. Right now, flow for all of these alternative voices is quite limited, and we didn't see any positive hopes or perspective from development in this area. And what we want to share with you, we just want to call to your attention for with of international support. We didn't stop this pressure by Azerbaijani government to civil society in Azerbaijan. That's why we believe it's important to use international mechanisms, and I want to say much more concretely, international sanction when it's needed against authoritarian regimes. With all this strong step by international society, we didn't see any potential change. Practice from the last 3 years or so, Azerbaijani government never is for real dialogue with civil society. I just want to say same examples. From last 2 years, it's impossible from Azerbaijan civil societies organize any round tables or dialogues in public places in Azerbaijan. Even all hotels or press centers controlled by companies or persons which is very close connected with ruling regime. And each person which is publicly has wrongly criticized government arrested. And right now, I don't want to focus your attention on political prisoners because Rasul Jafarov made this presentation, but I just want to finalize your revolving door in Azerbaijan. It's continued when authorities release several well-known human rights defenders. Day later or week later, we have new political prisoners, and especially right now, Azerbaijan authorities started new fake dialogue initiative, and involved in this dialogue initiative local officers by Council of Europe and European Union, and continue to make some kind of decorative international community from, look guys, we started dialogue. We release people, we start dialogue with these people. It's not true. I want to go back again to legislative environment, this legislative environment, and especially this political will by Azerbaijani government, which we have right now. It's impossible to realize any alternative activities in Azerbaijan. I want to say thanks a lot to all international stakeholders, including the stakeholders by OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, which has made several interventions and include our colleague's name to Baku Declaration. For example, in 2014, when we have same event in Azerbaijan, OSCE Parliamentary Assembly called to Azerbaijan government to release well-known human rights offenders and armament, which is arrested immediately when we published a critical report about presidential election in 2013. I want to say about resolution by European Parliament by September 2015, which is concretely called to European institution for sanctions against Azerbaijani authorities against high-level representative by regime if situation didn't change. And a special thanks we want to say to US lawmakers, especially to Congressman Smith for his initiative with Azerbaijan Democracy Act. And we strongly believe for activities like this really supported independent voices, because when we criticize government, when we call for real dialogue, Azerbaijani government never listened to us. Azerbaijani government, according to my personal view, understand only strong call by serious and big international stakeholders. And that's what we call again to you. So please continue your support for Azerbaijan civil society, and don't forget and don't believe to any promises by Azerbaijan regime for situation has changed. We are ready for dialogue with Azerbaijani government. We are ready for real reform, and we are ready to give our contribution to these important changes. But we are not ready for dialogue just for the dialogue, and we don't ready to participate to the theater which we have in our own country. Thanks for your attention, and I want to say again, we have report, we support and details, and if some of you interested, thanks again for Norwegian delegation, for co-sponsorship of our side event, and thanks again for OSCE Parliamentary Assembly for this mechanism which give possibilities to civil society, make alternative interventions and make alternative calls to stakeholders. Thanks.
Hi everybody. I'm also very glad to be here after 2 years because last time the event of OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, because as Gulnara mentioned, we had side event in Baku in 2014 and also addressed human rights issues to Azerbaijani government, and we also had chatting with some members of delegation, and I personally had very positive view about all these events, and I was thinking that maybe now it's the time and finally we will manage to achieve some positive results. But unfortunately, instead of achieving positive results, we saw that Prosecutor General office started to use criminal case which they opened in April of 2014 against local and international NGOs to arrest prominent human rights defenders. And you know, most of you know very well about these detentions. One of them was about me. I also was arrested on 2nd of August 2014 on the fabricated charges. And we consider that charges against us just because of our activities. And it's some positive steps we just started to see only in March of this year when President Aliyev signed Parliamentary decree and they released 16 political prisoners, including me. Then courts started to release other political prisoners in April and May. So in the last 3 months, I can say that more than 20 political prisoners from list, which was prepared by many Azerbaijani NGOs in 2014, has been released. But unfortunately, we can't see continuation of this process, and in this case we can't speak about real political will to solve political prisoners problem in Azerbaijan. Why I'm talking about political prisoners? Because I was working upon political prisoners document, and now it is morally very important for me not to forget those people who still remain behind bars. Some of them were together with me in the same prison. Some of them I know personally. Some of them I don't know personally at all, but I know for sure that they are political prisoners. And we are not talking about political prisoners because we are happy to have them, or we want to have more political prisoners, to have more advocacy around them, or more pressure to Azerbaijani government. We are talking about political prisoners because as a people who live in Azerbaijan and as a people who love its country, we want to solve country's problems, including political prisoners problem. And it's very important for us at the same time to explain to Azerbaijani government that the NGO civil society is not against state, or they are not interested in chaos or some other negative things, which unfortunately state newspapers, sometimes even very high-ranking officials, blamed us in doing such kind of negative things. With our colleagues who released in March and later, concretely Intikam Aliyev, another human rights defender, Anar Mehmetli, Emin mentioned his name, we decided to stay in Baku. We committed ourselves again to work on human rights violations and help them to be solved. We also, like all together, people here and our colleagues in Azerbaijan, we also decided to work on political prisoners' documents, and it will be not only a list of people, but it will be also description of the cases and our arguments why we consider these people as political prisoners. And we will send this list, this document, to all interested people, including state officials and state institutions. And if there will be, as Emin mentioned, real interest to speak, to discuss these cases and to help these people to be released from prison, we are ready to participate in kind of discussions. But I also at the same time think that we really have to continue our advocacy, our meetings, our events, and to urge Azerbaijani government to release other political prisoners. Because today we have so many clear cases, so many clear people who are definitely political prisoners. One bright example is the case of Geir, head of Real movement, opposition movement, about whom there is concrete decision of European Court of Human Rights, and it clearly declares that his rights under Article 5 and 18 of Human Rights Convention had been violated and he should be released. And after this decision, there were 7 statements and resolutions of Committee of Ministers of Council of Europe, and unfortunately, Geir is still in jail. So right now, the case of Geir is not a problem of one person or internal problem of Azerbaijan, but it's also a problem of Europe, because one member of Council of Europe shows very clear disrespect to another member state, not without implementation of concrete judgment of human rights courts, and I can mention also many other names. I can mention İlkin Rüstamzade, member of NIDA movement, whose colleagues all already released, but he is still in jail. I can mention Seymour Hazi, journalist who worked in Azadlık newspaper, also in Azerbaijan Hour, and both these media outlets are quite critical about policy of government in Azerbaijan. And so many other names. I just don't want to take your time with these names, but as I mentioned, we will have this document prepared and we can share with you if you will be interested. I will stop here and I will be happy to answer any questions of yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I forgot to say that my name is Geir, Bekkevold. I'm the head of the Norwegian delegation to the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. And I have been working with questions related to the human rights situation in Azerbaijan for some time. I think that I will open the floor for questions. Please, we have short time, so it's not room for long speeches. But if there are questions, please raise your hand, and I will try to make sure that you all can have some good answers. Okay, I'll open the floor. Other questions?
First, let me introduce for beginning myself. My name is Levan Shkeidze. I'm also a human rights defender from Georgia, GCSSI. I'm working into the human rights cases. I have law practice more than 15 years, and I'm mostly working with the political parties and non-political organization, and I usually supporting some oppositional parties and groups to defend the interests in the court mostly. I listened to the speech and thank you very much for this presentation. So mostly we have same experience sometimes here in Georgia, but you said that you give us a picture that the situation of the democracy in Azerbaijan is hopeless, or how do you think? We see some economical rising in Azerbaijan. We see that we are talking about problems of democracy in Azerbaijan, but do not forget in which region are our countries, which kind of problems our countries have. Our territories are occupied by our neighbor countries. Our democracies are very young. I can say they are developing just, and our democracies are no more than 25 years each. So. And how much is European democracy, for example? In Europe, by my opinion, it's my personal opinion, I think the continual democracy has only, for example, United Kingdom, for example, which is continue for centuries and do not stop. So most countries of democracy has democracy since after World War II, and even this organization, you talk about the European Council, yes? It was created by democratic countries, and even this Court of Human Rights, as I'm not mistaken, was recognized by this court as a political prison, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, this court was created by European countries, and there are not only cases against Azerbaijan or only Georgia or only Russia. There was cases also against democratic countries, which was members of the European councils before our countries was created, established. So it doesn't mean that those countries were not democratic countries. So I understand we are post-Soviet countries, Azerbaijan and also Georgia and other, our friend countries, our regional countries from Soviet Union. But our democracies, I think, they are developing, and I don't think that the situation isn't so much hopeless because Azerbaijan declares human rights, for example. Azerbaijan is a member of the many international agreements in human rights. Azerbaijan is a member of the European Council, for example, and decisions of the human rights of the European Council has power on territory of Azerbaijan, and the cabinet of the ministers is responsible to execution of the decisions of the human rights court. So how do you think, is it possible to, during the 25 years from post-Soviet country to create a country with developed democracy, like in Europe they have since from in countries which are developing the democracy from 1945. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy for our Georgian colleague ask these questions. Yes, it's possible, and I give one example. It's Georgia. When lots of European democracies, sometimes we're talking with Portuguese friends, with Spanish friends, which is have like 35, 40 years ago, like same problem in Europe. People say, well, we need the time, it's like, we need to change this generation. But some of our friends in Europe, like in France, in UK, in Germany, also say, well, we need to be patient, guys. Just a little bit wait, maybe, but we say for why? Because it's like, you know, we are post-Soviet countries. But we say, look guys, I'm not talking about Baltic states, which is also part of the former Soviet Union, which is have quite serious development, democracy and human rights. Right now it's part of the Europe. I'm talking about Georgia. Georgia and Azerbaijan mentality is like same brother nations. We are neighbors. We have same tradition and cultural tradition. Same situation which is happier in Shevardnadze period, election falsifying, like government pressure, most of the problem with judgment, etc. We have solved this, half of this problem. And we're talking about democracy and human rights. We're not talking about Baltic standards. We're not talking about US democracy or UK or France or Norway democracy. We're talking about, we give example, the Council of Europe. So look to our Georgian neighbor. Country which is clearly shown it's possible to make democratic transition. One president come to ruling floor after Shevardnadze, Saakashvili. And when people say, well, enough is enough, right now we need a new leadership, we are going to use your constitutional rights. And that's what we only used in Azerbaijan. We don't think about like some kind of nano-democracy. We say about Georgian models, and in all our things, I have a question for you.
Even in Georgia it was not easy.
I know, but we want just what you have right now. We want independent elections. We want like independent media, which you have. But we don't have anything in our own countries. That's what we say. Yes, and we always say it's possible. And right now, Georgia is model of possibilities to solve Caucasian countries. That's what we say for. It's possible to say if Georgia, with limited resources, makes this democratic transition for a very quick period, I think we believe if Azerbaijan government won, if the Azerbaijan government shows its political will, it's possible to make this in our own country. But without political will, without ready for this transition, I think we didn't say anything. I think
Thank you very much for questions. Actually, let's say this 25 years. Maybe you are right and it is not a long time to achieve some democracy in the country. But let's see that is there any positive developments or not. Today I can say that in 90s we had more democracies than now. So is it right way we go? Of course not. In 90s, in the beginning of 21st century, we had more democracies, more democracy, more freedoms. We had free media, we had freedom of assembly, we had strong and not repressed political parties. We had more rights for free and fair elections. but we don't see kind of things right now. So if we speak about time, we have to see some positive developments, and then yes, we can say that, okay, after 100 years or 200 years, we'll have something close to perfect democracy, right? Or something very positive. Or even less, or even more. I don't want to predict the time, but when you don't see positive developments, you can't say that, you know, we are just 25-year-old independence and we will achieve something after 50 years. You just can't, because you can't see any positive developments regarding human rights and democracy in the country. Related to decisions of European Court, we don't say that it's only Azerbaijan that implemented the judgments. We know very well that there are other judgments as well, which is not easy to implement. But in our case, we are talking about life of one person who is spending his time behind bars illegally. In many other cases, which you mentioned, the countries which can't implement the judgments, it's not about the Article 5 or Article 18. There are a lot of other articles, and I read most of these judgments which are not implemented, and there it is some systematic problem, or it can be some discussions or debates about one topic, and sides can't be on the same side about this question. But here we are talking very clearly about one person that is illegally spending his time behind bars. Plus it is a humanitarian issue as well. And we are from Azerbaijan, and we are talking about problems of Azerbaijan. I mean, if our colleagues will talk about problems in UK, and we are helping them, and we will join them. And the last thing about like human rights situation in Europe, you know, we are not, we don't want human rights to be protected or respected in Azerbaijan because of Europe. It is human rights, and it is human rights of Azerbaijan people. And we want our rights to be respected. You know, we don't want to import anything from anywhere. It is in our constitution, it is in our legislation.
Same rights are guaranteed by the constitution of Azerbaijan, yeah. Please.
And it should be implemented in our country.
Please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Then I'm glad to see that the Congressman is a Speaker for the United States of America is here, so please take a vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, Rasul, it's great to see you free. So many of us hoped and prayed that you would be free, and obviously applied as much pressure as we possibly could, and it was a concerted effort. Emin and Gulnara, thank you for inviting me to be here. I'll be very brief. Let's make a couple of points. On two occasions, in 2013 and 14, a group of congressmen and senators and I met with Aliyev in his palace. We raised human rights for well over an hour. We raised, obviously, the fundamental human rights enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, freedom of press, freedom of speech and assembly. We made special emphasis on political prisoners and the release of political prisoners. And not just the release, but the ending of their, the decrees that put them there in the first place, which means even a free political prisoner, if that's not done away with, is liable for recapture and reincarceration at the drop of a hat, whenever they capriciously deem they would like to do it. We raised religious intolerance, which has been getting worse, and of course it got worse in December with new amendments signed by Aliyev. We also raised the issue of sex selection abortion, which is leading horrifically to a gender imbalance where the girl child is being killed by sex selection abortion. The male to female, it's not quite China yet, but it's on its way. And he took it all in, it was a give and take, but we didn't get all that far in all candor. When a Radio Free Europe reporter was arrested, it actually raised the stakes significantly for the United States and for all of us, because now we had someone who was reporting on corruption by Aliyev, getting a 7.5-year prison sentence. I put together a hearing on her behalf, and then behind that, all of the other prisoners. And then I introduced a bill called the Azerbaijan, I should say, Democracy Act. The operative language of that, and we'll hand out copies for you, is Section 4, which would provide that the senior leadership of this government and their families be precluded application to visas to come to the United States if that's their desire. To say we want a calibrated, focused sanction on those who are committing these crimes against political prisoners and others. And it was met with a great deal of laughter in Baku, and even a crazy accusation that somehow the Armenians wrote the bill. I want to make very clearly at this forum that my staff and I wrote this bill. When we put out our press release about it, that's when the Armenian community learned about it. So even, from my perch in the United States, we see how, what a Alice in Wonderland viewpoint this government has. They don't have a clue why we are raising this issue, or so it would seem, blaming it, as I said, on the belief that it was just ginned up by the Armenians. It absolutely was not. They learned about it. The template for this law, this bill, is the Belarus Democracy Act, which I am the prime author of. It's current law in the United States. Directed after Lukashenko and his cronies. It does very similar things in terms of denying access to the United States, and we know that the EU has adopted a parallel set of sanctions against Belarus precisely to try to hold those who commit these atrocities to account. I can assure you we'll continue our advocacy and we'll do so very, very aggressively. My hope is that this bill will pass. I believe it had at least some input in leading to the release of some prisoners because we're serious about this. I've been in Congress 36 years. I've written well over 25 major laws on human rights, including America's landmark law called the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, as well as many other laws. This Belarus Democracy, again, was the template for this. Aliyev has actually hired a Top Gun law firm in the United States to kill the bill, and they're working the halls of Congress to try to stop it, but that's happened before. I will, and my colleagues will be undeterred in trying to make sure that this legislation goes forward. The legislation has within it provisions that if things improve, obviously the sanctions go away. Sanctions only have meaning when they're used judiciously, as we all know, to bring out a positive outcome, and we are very intent on ensuring that. So thank you for your leadership. It is extraordinary. It's making the difference, and we will try to do our part to be a part of this important human rights struggle.
Thank you, Mr. Do you want to make any comments on this?
I just have a comment. Thanks again, Mr. Schmidt, and I think people in Azerbaijan strongly believe for this Azerbaijan Democratic Act is for interest of Azerbaijani people. And it's only government propaganda says so, like this Armenian law-based, or the same thing Azerbaijani like propaganda machine make against all of us last 10 years. He said, well, we are Western spies, we are Armenian spies, but people didn't believe to this, and this is only for domestic part. Just people to say, look, people which is talking about problem, we are enemies. We are not enemies. We are sending hundreds of letters to Azerbaijani government, for we are ready to talking with you. I just want to say, for my own president never give interview to independent media since we come to the ruling for since 2003. Never ever. But in Azerbaijan, it's very difficult to make any activities. Like Khadija Ismailova, she's released. And thanks again to your intervention, because we know your role and other MP's role. She's going to come to this event. OSCE Parliamentary Assembly members invite her, several members. We also want to invite her to our side event. But she's not allowed to leave the country, even she's released. That process continues. It's really people's release, people not allowed back two brothers will not be allowed to leave the country because of informal travel ban. Same situation we have with our employees. With dozens of civil society activists not be allowed to travel. And the second, even this person not in prison, his constitutional right for free movement limited. And this was like some kind of part of the form of political prisoners because it's limited in the total pressure is uncrafted. And I just want to say about Azerbaijani government, but I forget it's my general remarks. What's happened in Council of Europe, like in Parliamentary Assembly and Council of Europe, in 2013, Mr. Strasser, MP by Germany, prepared a report by political prisoners in Azerbaijan. They applied to Azerbaijani government several times to visit the country for funding mission. He not be allowed, and with our contribution, like in the civil society voices, he prepared this report. And Azerbaijani government mobilizes lobbyists not only in US like Podesta Group, work against your initiative. They are also making books to Washington, to Strasbourg, to Brussels. In everywhere we see the same pictures for Azerbaijani lobbyists spend Azerbaijani taxpayers' money against our human rights advocacy. And last examples happened in 2013 with Italian MP. Right now, Milan prosecutors start criminal case against him because Azerbaijani government gave more than 2 million euro bribe for kill this report by Mr. Strasser in Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe. Right now it's open criminal case, and we wait until when this case finished and go to the court to Italy. But it's clear for how this government gives us money. He transferred more than 2 million euros from state company Bank Telecom to bank accounts which is affiliated with this Italian MP. In question, this Italian MP, this is not bribe. My question, which kind of business is possible between Azerbaijan state telecommunication monopoly company with this Italian MPs? And this is clear in part of this case by which is shared by all independent Italian media for this cost paid especially for keep the Azerbaijani political prison report which is presented by Mr. Strasser.
Thank you. We have room for one more question. So please take the floor.
Я скажу по-своему могу перевести, потому что у меня очень плохой английский. Я не знаю, нашими католиками слушает нас. Я раньше говорил вам, кого-то Азербайджан использовал Azerbaijan.
I don't know exactly which situation is in Azerbaijan political party situation. But I know very much what kind of situation is in Georgia, for example.
საქართველოში ძალიან ბევრი ორგანიზაცია, არა მარტო არასოციალური ორგანიზაცია, ბევრი პოლიტიკური პარტიაც ფინანსირდება ქვეყნის საზღვარგარეთიდან.
For example, many organizations that are not only non-governmental organizations, also political organizations are donated from outside of Georgia.
But
these organizations are not working for interests of Georgia. There is one question of state legal interest of security.
And
there is second human rights. For example, we have now election, and into this election now we registered few political parties in Georgia. And these political parties have into this article to destroy statement of Georgia.
με την τεταλизация учителя аргументацията на капшилевите. Ме интересува из организациеви, რომელიც შეიზღუდა აზერბაიჯანში. რამდენად გამჭვირვალე მიიღეს ინტერესის საქმიანობაში.
We have same question, for example, and it's interesting to have detailed information. These organizations, which was limited, their activity was limited. Which kind of organization there was first,
რამდენად მსახურობდნენ აზერბაიჯანის სახელმწიფო ინტერესების
and how much transparent these organizations was, and how much for Azerbaijan state interest this organization have worked.
დიდი მადლობა.
Thank you very much.
About details, we have 54 pages report, which is this last update by June of this year. And if you're ready, we presented this report to you. So about transparency, for example, if you ask about transparency from civil society, all independent civil societies in Azerbaijan is obligatory. We've seen from 2006 when our organization established. We are presented all financial report, all our donation, all information about grants to Azerbaijan Ministry of Justice. And from last, for example, in our example, last 10 years, we have implemented 48 projects, which is total cost of this project, 48 projects. In our organization works like 35-40%, it depends by period, until middle of 2014, because after 2014 our organization destroyed in Azerbaijan. But we are publishing all our reports. We send the reports to Minister of Taxes, to Minister of Justice. And Minister of Justice published this report on his own website. We have this proof. And right now it's a case in the European Court of Human Rights. It's issued, for example, in our organization case, the government says, well, you must, activities which is realized from last years, from this 48 grants, which is a total amount approximately $1.5 million, which is not big. It's like, you know what it's one government says for this is amount. It's not non-profit activities, it's commercial activities. You must pay the value-added taxes, and this is criminal, like article which is used by prosecutor office and in the Minister of Taxes against us. He says, well, you didn't pay, but we say, well, guys, we are making reporting to you. You are publishing in your own website, for this is grant, and right now you are removed this from your website, but even you are removed, we have this online archive, which is we make safe by your website, and we give this proof to Minister of Justice and all other states. But judge says, well, no, you are made tax evasions. And Rasul Jafarov arrested, all my colleagues arrested. It's not only our organization, same situation we see and observe with different critical organizations. That's what I strongly that. If we always say to government, hey guys, we give all reports to you. I'm talking about NGOs. With NGOs, it's no problem. Government says for NGO must pay that value-added tax. We say for this is not true. According to Azerbaijan tax code, we are free, and it's not obligated for us to pay these taxes. But we are paid the taxes from salaries, from all other taxes. But no value-added tax because we are non-profit organizations. And that's what government started. Government just uses these tax evasions to blackmail us in Western communities, because in the Western community, tax evasion issues is like Holy Bible. If somebody says, oh look, this guy didn't pay taxes, it's crime, doesn't matter. You are Prime Minister in the Europe, you are MP, or doesn't matter who you are, or judge. If you didn't pay, you are enemy. And that's what government started to use against us in Azerbaijan, to prepare like fake pictures for we are doing that. But I just want to say also about this transparency issue. Azerbaijani government, according to Panama Papers documents, especially the ruling family, accumulated $1 billion in Panama Island, in Virgin British Island, and this is proof, which is shared just in the 2nd of April of this year. And this government and ruling regime and ruling family, which is biggest tax evasion actors in Azerbaijan, that's true. And a person like Khadija Ismailova, which is investigating these Panama Papers cases, she is arrested illegally for tax evasions. You see how this government uses transparency issues. And same situation with with transparency with political parties. Political parties don't have any kind of support, but anyway, even according to current last changes to non-profit law, it's impossible to make any kind of donation to non-profit organization or to political party. You must be declared to each cent. It doesn't matter if it's 10 cents, even in US until 5,000, it's possible to make anonymous donation. In Europe, in other countries, until, in Azerbaijan this is impossible. This is impossible, and especially, we just want to finalize, persons. Azerbaijan is just example for transparency. Nobody, since from 2005, it's obligated according to Azerbaijan like law, for each state officials must be publish its own incomes. Until today, 11 years later, when Azerbaijan enjoyed to anti-corruption initiative to UN, when Azerbaijan ratified lots of documents against money laundering, Azerbaijan officials didn't declare any incomes, including Azerbaijani MPs, including Azerbaijani president, including others. My question is about transparency. First of all, why my president, why my MPs didn't publish how much income, how much properties we have? Even if Khadija Ismailova, before presidential election, asked president, okay, you are candidate, but please give us information to Azerbaijani people, which kind of incomes or capital properties, cars you have, and your family members, your close relatives. And she didn't respond. The Azerbaijan State Election Commission didn't give any response. And nobody, if we see here in our MPs, we see our ambassador here. And if we are ready to respond to each question, it's questions about transparency, first questions by us to Azerbaijani government, which is Azerbaijani government never responds, and this is the biggest reason to all this crackdown, because government makes this crackdown especially only for one general reason, because makes this crackdown against all these stakeholders, which is us, this government. Okay, what's your benefits from these ruling positions? When anyone asks for you, why you change constitutions? When I got my mother asked President Aliyev, okay, why it's not enough to use state to ruling position. Aliyev changed constitution in 2009, and my question is, which kind of, we have, if in Georgia government, Saakashvili or current president says, okay, let's go to change constitution, what's your people's making?
During Saakashvili, we had 74 changes in constitution.
I know, but I asked for it's about the term of ruling.
It's about the term of presidents.
Please, we have ambassador. I think Ambassador Kuna has your question.
If the ambassador want to take the floor, he's welcome to do that. Those we can force him.
Which ambassador? About which ambassador we are speaking? You are speaking about me? I'm not ambassador.
Okay. I'm sorry that we are running out of time. I'm sorry, we are running out of time. Thank you.
It's the same as all your speech.
Please,
No
please, please.
Only I can
Yeah, please,
speak.
Okay.
Can I speak?
Yeah. Please introduce yourself.
Cameron Abzadeh, member of Parliament, independent member of Parliament. It's very unfortunate. It's very interesting for me to participate in this meeting and hear your voices, hear your claims. Of course, Azerbaijan is under development. Everything is improved. Of course, Azerbaijan, as all CIS states, have some problems in development, have some mistakes could be, but we can hear you, you can hear me, and we can improve situation, of course, and we are working on it. But for me, it was interesting to hear some facts. Unfortunately, I will read report, of course, I will read report, but unfortunately, I have not heard any facts, unfortunately. Only just speech
and common words. And I must say that, for example, our president is financing opposition newspapers. For example, most of opposition newspapers, and you know that, of course. I can say Musabat, for example. Officially, it was stated, and each year, Mr. President sponsoring these newspapers. Could you, for example, say me which country sponsoring opposition newspapers? You can answer later. I have a little more questions. Second, all political parties have opportunity to collect people in square, in one separate square. But if you want to lead people to distract buildings, state official bodies or somebody, you will be in prison, you will go to trial in any country, not only in Azerbaijan. In Australia, in America, everywhere. It's a common right of all people to defend its state. And that's why we couldn't mix these rights. Also, there could be criticism, but defamation is not possible. Defamation, it's a crime. As for me, also as for state. And that's why I kindly ask you to say your arguments, to speak in behalf of your position, not in the name of all country and all my country's people, all Azerbaijanis. All guests that was in, for example, United Nations Forum stipulate that all nations, all religions have equal rights. Yes, could be some problems. I elected from Kazakh region. It's a neighboring region, district with Georgia and Armenia. We have everyday fightings with Armenia, for example. A lot of people have violation of their rights. Why you are not speaking about that? We have 1 million refugees. For example, second question, whom you assist and whom you help? At least say me one name of these refugees in Azerbaijan that you will assist. Not by some funds, not by legally. That's the question. And I think that it's not a very correct format of meeting. If you are speaking, you had speech in 2014 in Baku. We was absolutely free and you said everything that you want. Now you have said that
I'm sorry, sir. We are really running out of time. So
I kindly ask to be more correct, and if you want to make a right
please, sir.
format, you must hear some opposite opinions, and here must be somebody not from Parliament of Azerbaijan, not from state bodies, not authorities, but somebody with different opinion.
With all respect, you have to answer.
Two questions. And
No, you have to end now. Please, answer.
you are not interrupted.
One
Other speeches,
Please.
but in my case, you are interrupted.
I'm sorry, I also have to stop this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nabizadeh.
This is
I
an
apologize.
example of democracy.
I apologize for it's my mistake for you. I think for you. I'm not with my glasses, but anyway, you are a member of Parliament. You like same status like a master. You are represented as a
No, it's not the same
I it's like
Please, I'm elected.
you are elected person. Okay.
I was elected by
But
people.
you are represented as an international governmental structure. That's it's enough for. I think it's not a big mistake, but I'm apologize again. But so about form, you say for about Musabat newspapers. Yes.
For example, you said
Give me one name of
I just want to give two examples.
all opposition newspapers.
We have until 2013, we are making systematic media monitoring. Until 2013, I can say yes, it's true what you say. Until 2013, presidential administration established state support foundation for media. And two in the oppositional newspapers applied for grants for this bodies, state bodies. And state gives for each year $60,000 from each of them, including to Azerbaijan newspaper and to Musavat. What's happened after 2014? Right now, Musavat newspaper, which you say oppositional newspaper, and which is continuing to use umbrella by oppositional parties, and since from 2013 it's not oppositional newspaper. It changed completely. It's your opinion. Not, it was my opinion based on the professional media monitoring report, which is I'm also ready to give you print version or electronic version and send it to your email. Musavat former oppositional papers today is not oppositional newspaper, and Azerbaijani government didn't support, cannot continue to support Azerbaijani newspaper Azad since from middle 2014. That is clear. From last 2 years, we can't see any support by this foundation. But I'm just talking about which countries support oppositional and independent media. Azerbaijan government wants to try to use French model because in French government has special foundation which is give subsidy to newspapers like Figaro, Le Monde, and others. This is French practice, which is quite clear and transparent. Same practice happened in Turkey. In Turkey, just not mechanism which is started using in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan government want to adopt this mechanism and use this mechanism to show to European community for good guys. We also very care about our independent media. Later, Azerbaijan government established same mechanism to support NGOs and started supporting until middle 2014 also some kind of independent NGOs. But after 2014, this state bodies, State NGO Support Council, which is, as I believe, which is candidate to vice presidency of this Parliamentary Assembly, this person give legal, it's not legal, it's like expert review about all NGO cases. For, yes, to prosecutor office for this NGOs which is realize these projects, make not non-profit activities, commercial activities, and this NGO must be paid tax. If they didn't pay tax, this criminal responsibilities, and this NGO leaders must be arrested. That's what's happening in Azerbaijan. We didn't say for government. Government, yes, government adopted lots of European laws and mechanisms since we have membership in the Council of Europe since 2002. But after 2008, we have completely new situation. Each year, government changed law, and right now we can't see any progressive law, which we see until 2008. I'm always saying for years we adopted lots of progressive law, and sometimes partly Azerbaijani government implemented this law. But today, even if we have quite good constitution, it's not implemented. For civil society, it's not implemented. Thus, we have lots of problems, and we are happy to discuss with you and other MPs these problems in Azerbaijan or outside in Azerbaijan. But we think we need to looking forward. And if you are ready for real dialogue, we are also ready for our part.
Okay.
Second question.
I have
regarding.
I'm sorry, we are really now running out of time. We are on the schedule. So we have to stop now.
I would say one thing that
please,
a transitioner in Azerbaijan is our president. Because he is seeing all negative moments and he is stipulating all points to improve situation, and he is calling all authorities to be more transparent and to work with people. And I want it's my wish to you.
And we have to stop
Speak a
now.
little bit about human rights in Armenia.
Please.
About Maruf Aliyan. About killing of people in Parliament of Armenia.
With all respect,
Please
sir.
speak about few days ago arrests of
oppositioners in Armenia. Please speak about history.
We are not from Armenia, we are from Azerbaijan.
You are but Armenian human writers speaking about that.
It's fair.
What's the difference? Because it's our common pain. Karabakh is our common pain. Me and you, we must be common on this struggle. Right?
Yeah, how to continue this dialogue.
We must speak about our 1 million migrants.
Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you very much for the three of you who came here and share your speech and also the dream for the future. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
You mentioned this human rights court. It's a concrete fact. Adopted by I mean, we have our arguments. So it was very nice to meet you.